Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and this time we're talking about what to expect from the next Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, what could be in there. And we're talking about this now because there's a chance that we might be seeing an update on Breath of the Wild 2 not too long from now. It is believed by many that an Nintendo Direct is not too far off. And this Direct supposedly is happening this month in the summertime. Usually we have the E3 Directs around a similar time, give or take a few weeks, and that's usually when we get the biggest Direct of the year, and typically when we get the major blowouts for the big 3D Zelda games, they happen at those E3 Directs. So there's a hope that this time around, with Breath of the Wild 2 slated for this next spring, 2023, that this summer Direct we're going to get a big blowout for this game. Now, the next big trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 may come at a later date. We don't know what Nintendo's actual intent or plan is, but it could be coming sooner than later, and regardless, eventually we will get this sort of significant next trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. So what could this trailer entail? Well, that's what we're talking about today. Now before we jump into things, let me first recommend that you check out my social media. It is linked in the description below. Please also like the video, that helps out a whole bunch, and if you're interested, consider joining as a member. Alright, so with the next trailer to the sequel to Breath of the Wild, what should we expect? What should we sort of see? Well, what I'm thinking is that we're finally getting a trailer that's more than just 90 seconds long. I would say the first two trailers for Breath of the Wild 2 are more like teasers, sort of giving us an idea of what to expect, but really just sort of playing around with the concept of the game, not so much truly telling us what it's about. This next trailer, I'm thinking, is going to be an actual showcase for what this game actually is. It's going to sort of give us an understanding of what the gameplay loop will be. It'll give us an understanding of the story. It will give us an understanding of how different this game is compared to its predecessor, the original. So with that all in mind, this trailer is probably going to be more than 90 seconds. It's probably going to be something closer to 3 to 4 minutes, I would say. Some of the more significant trailers for Breath of the Wild were 3+ minutes. So I feel like it's fair to guess that the next trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 probably will also be above 3 minutes. But by the end of that trailer, assuming this is all the case, and it is meant to truly showcase the game to a broad audience, I think they will finally give us a title drop, referring to the game as the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is quite a mouthful, and Breath of the Wild 2 probably isn't going to be the title. Most of the time they don't go with simply a number for Zelda games. Even most sequels don't have a number, they have an entirely new subtitle, and I think the same will apply this time around. Not only has a series not really needed numbers to suggest that you should get this game if you're a Zelda fan, but also by it having its own name, it has its own potential, it has its own identity. So I'm definitely expecting a title drop with this next trailer. But on the note of the title, once we see that title, we're going to get somewhat more of an understanding of what the story is about, potentially. There's going to be some sort of key element from the title that will give us a better understanding of the game. It could have to do with the story, it could have to do with a core gameplay mechanic of the game, potentially both. Take a look at Ocarina of Time, for example. That was a hint towards both the story and the gameplay. So something similar could be happening with Breath of the Wild 2. But continuing this train of thought of story, I think now we'll finally get some actual cutscenes or snippets of them that will include some voice acting. There was a leak or an interview that happened not too long ago where supposedly the Italian voice actor for Daruk recorded new lines for Daruk in Breath of the Wild 2 and also his ancestor. This is a suggestion the game is perhaps pretty far along, and also that there's already been voice acting work done, so they may be able to demonstrate some of this work in a new trailer not too long from now. So I'm thinking, yes, with the next big trailer, there will probably be some voice acting, some actual epic cutscenes there. And it's possible we may have to wait till a trailer is closer to release, just a few months away, but there's still a decent chance we finally get some voice acting. And if and when we do, who will that be from? What sort of key characters will be speaking in this game? Well, I'm sure there's a number of possibilities. Impa, for example, she spoke in Breath of the Wild, so if she's around in Breath of the Wild too, which I would say is a decent bet, she may be speaking in the game. Perhaps there are some cutscenes involving her. How about Zelda? In the first trailer, it seemed to imply that Zelda's gonna have a bigger role in this game. Of course, in the second trailer, she falls down a hole, so we're not entirely sure. This trailer may give us a better understanding of Zelda's role in the game, and if it is going to be something of some significance, we may hear her voice. Even if it is just something we see in the beginning, we still may get some voice acting from Zelda, actually hearing some of her lines. But another character that I think there's a decent chance we could see something from is Ganondorf. And Ganondorf is that crazy dark corpse that's coming back to life in the first trailer. Or at least it's so widely believed that it's Ganondorf. I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. I think this character is going to have some lines. Now, he may look like a crazed mummy, but at one point he had a past, a personality. He was an individual with some intelligence, and either it's going to happen in real time of the current events of the game or in flashbacks or both, but I feel pretty confident saying there's gonna be some actual voice acted lines for this character. So the question is, will they show it in the next trailer? And I think there's a pretty good chance. They've been teasing this character with the first two teaser trailers. I think now we'll get something a bit more significant from this character, a better understanding of who he is, with an actual cutscene involving potentially his own dialogue, and we'll be hearing for the first time a voice-acted Ganondorf, which would be pretty amazing. But let's go beyond some of the story elements they may be suggesting with this trailer. I think there's more they're going to be doing. There is a belief, and I sort of echo this belief, that we're going to be seeing somewhat of a return to form in Breath of the Wild 2. So Breath of the Wild was quite a departure from the typical 3D Zelda formula. I think in Breath of the Wild 2, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of a hybrid. They'll be returning to form to some degree. Perhaps we're seeing more unique enemy designs. We'll be seeing more traditional motifs returning to the series, perhaps like sages or the Triforce, things of that nature. But also I think we could be seeing the return of classical style dungeons. The Master Sword is destroyed. There's going to need to be some sort of effort to restore it or power it up or find a replacement. And in previous Zelda games, when the Master Sword has been in need of being restored or repaired or powered up, it's because Link has to go to some sort of temple. So I think we're going to be seeing the return of actual temples, typical style dungeons in this game. They will probably have their own sort of change because they probably won't be quite the same, because this is going to be in the open air style we saw in Breath of the Wild, but of course expanded upon in the sequel, so they won't be exactly the same. But there will be a similarity there, and they will show off this to some degree in the trailer potentially. And alongside these dungeons, naturally also comes that unique sort of boss fight per dungeon, and they may be showing off one or two in the trailer. When we look at trailers for 3D Zeldas before Breath of the Wild, we usually see a couple bosses shown off in those bigger significant trailers of those games, so I think this time around it will be similar. But going beyond the dungeons, I also think we'll probably be getting a more in-depth look at the mechanics of the game. We've seen several teases of this special hand that Link has and the powers it may contain. I think they'll show more evidence that this hand is the replacement for the Sheikah Slate, where it will have its own runes and abilities that can do different things in the environment and the world. And we'll see more of this throughout the trailer. But also I think we'll see updates on what we can do with the combat. We'll actually see more actual shots of Link doing combat within the game. We saw some patents of what Link might be able to do in the air. We may actually see this with actual gameplay in the trailer, how combat has evolved to some extent in the next trailer. But also they may give us a better understanding of how you traverse in the game. Perhaps they'll show more horse gameplay. Perhaps they'll show other types of mounts in the game. Maybe something you could fly with. Perhaps they'll give us a better look at this sort of vertical jumping transport ability they showed us in the second teaser trailer. But going beyond this, beyond all of this, I think the most important thing that this trailer needs to do, and I say this with a pretty good amount of confidence that they will do, is that they need to show more ways that this game differs from Breath of the Wild. I think with the second trailer, when they actually finally showed us some level of gameplay in the game, a common sentiment amongst fans is that it sort of looks pretty much like Breath of the Wild. I think with the next trailer, they're going to make it more clear how much work and new content is in this game compared to the original. They're going to be showing more of those differences. They're going to be showing more of the open world differences. They're going to show us why this game is the next Legend of Zelda that is worth buying. It is not just some overglorified DLC. And that's sort of what I'm expecting we could be seeing with the next trailer. Will all these things show up in the way I suggested? I think there's a decent chance, but one or two of these things maybe they save for a later trailer down the road. But I feel like I put a pretty good approximation of what we can maybe be seeing with the next significant trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. But what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with my sort of estimation here, or do you guys think that there may be some other things we may be seeing with the next trailer? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.